That was the House Homeland Security Chairman Mike McCaul. He joins us now from the FEMA Center in Washington, D.C. Chairman, it seems like it's a week ago we were chatting about what's going on in your neck of the woods in Texas, and here we are in Florida, and maybe Jose is next. But you talk about back-to-back storms in hurricane season. Is FEMA able to handle this in general, or are services, funding running dry, able to deal with this?
Well, FEMA did a fantastic job in response to my state's disaster with Harvey. I think the president signing the advance declaration disaster with my governor is very helpful. We had the same scenario play out here in Florida. And behind me are all the representatives of FEMA representing all the sectors who are working with the people on the ground with pre-positioned assets after that declaration was signed, waiting out the storm. Once that storm has blown over, they will immediately go in and start to do search and rescue and recovery and then rebuilding. So to your point, it's hard to imagine yet another hurricane of this magnitude hitting the United States. The Congress, as you know, we just voted yesterday to appropriate $15.5 billion for disaster relief fund for FEMA, both for Harvey, but also for this Florida Hurricane Irma, as it hits the coast of Florida as we speak.
And as you indicated to me, even if the well were formally run dry for FEMA, it can spend and address and deal with funding issues later. People seem to think that if the money is technically running out, the support in FEMA itself is able to continue to help, so people needn't fear that. But this, you talked about this funding effort, the better than $15 billion funding effort, which would go toward relief in Texas and I guess by extension Florida. 90 of your colleagues in the House, all Republicans, voted against that because most of them said the way it was done. Members of the Freedom Caucus, largely conservative bunch, had said that they didn't like the way it was tied to an increase in the debt ceiling, an extension for. They said it set a dangerous precedent. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not going to get tied down in political nuances. I mean, look, I got a lot of people hurting in my state, and I've been in their homes, and I've seen the homes flooded and gutted. We had people that died from that hurricane. I'm interested in helping those people out, first and foremost, and saving lives and helping people rebuild their lives. I'm also worried about the Floridians as we speak and what's going to happen to them in the next 48 hours. So I think my state takes primacy over that argument, and I think saving lives in Florida will take primacy as well. So, that's people debate things like that in Washington, and they have every right to do so, and I don't judge that. But I know I voted in good conscience to help save the people of my state and the state of Florida.
Well, I guess what they were saying, you're right, we don't want to belabor silly political points. They were saying that that aid would have been overwhelmingly passed regardless. Attaching it to the debt ceiling seemed like an odd thing to do, but as you say, it's done.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Neil, and Mick Mulvaney, the OMB director, who was a member of the Freedom Caucus, by the way, when I talked to him, he said, we cannot fund these the disaster relief funding without raising the debt ceiling. So you couldn't do both without the other. I mean, you couldn't.
No, he said,
have the
the same thing. You're talking about our budget director, Mick Mulvaney,
without doing that.
Yeah, and a former Freedom Caucus member. Let me get your sense. You have been mentioned as maybe the next Homeland Security Secretary. I know you're focused on this, as you should be. But is it your sense that regardless of whether you get that job, someone else gets that job, that given these storms and given the back-to-back nature, that maybe this could be a one-off, and this is an unusually busy hurricane season after a dozen years of relative quiet, that disaster relief or disaster preparation should be factored in much more than it presently is at Homeland Security?
Oh, yeah, FEMA is a large component of what the Department of Homeland Security does. I think people kind of forgot about that. We've been very fortunate. We haven't had these kind of hurricanes in many years. I think NOAA, not the guy that built the ark, but NOAA, the administration, predicted that this was going to be a very severe hurricane season. So we had some foreseeability that this was going to happen. FEMA's been standing up in preparation for this, and it's one of the most important, I think, missions that the department has is not just man-made disasters from terrorists, but also natural disasters that we're seeing taking place in my state and in Florida.
All right, Michael McCaul, thank you very, very much. Very good seeing you. Be safe, be well. The same to your
Thank you, Neil.
constituents.
Thank you.